Good.
Hello, hi, how are you?
How
Welcome
are you?
to, I'm wonderful. Welcome to Confidence Tea Infusions. I am so glad you could join us this evening and have this conversation. We are talking about skin complexion and the complexities that exist. And in a time where, we're in the age of Black Girl Magic, we're
Hmm.
in the age where melanin is popping, we're in the age where brown skin girls are just, we're popping, we're hot.
Hmm.
Now we see so much more of color. We see so much more things with women of color being featured, women of color being on commercials. And so I am so excited to just have this conversation with you tonight. So before we get started, just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and let's just get started.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I am a 31-year-old born again Christian of Haitian descendant. I am a child of an immigrant. I was born in West Palm Beach. I was raised in Lake Worth by a single mother who taught me the epitome of strength. I have four brothers. I am a member of Temple Restoration Outreach Ministries with amazing leaders. As for what I do during the day job I have is I'm a assistant supervisor of indirect loans, and my passion is being a fashion stylist. So that's what I do on the side. You can check out my work on Instagram at underscore Rose Society underscore, and or you can use my website, which is rosefashionsociety.com. I also have a Facebook, which would be the same link, rose underscore society. It's my passion. Fashion is it's what I live for. So
That's
um,
awesome.
that's pretty much me. I am just Ro.
Okay, all right. So fashion. So you guys can check her out on Instagram, and it's Rose Society. I've seen some of your work and I think it's absolutely
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I've seen some of the styling you've done. You style for weddings, I see.
Yeah, weddings,
Photo
bridal
shoots.
showers, photo shoots, baby
Okay. I've seen some of the
maternity,
pictures. Yeah. What's your favorite?
maternity.
Oh, so you do styling for maternity shoots as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
Baby showers, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't discriminate. Anything.
Listen, any type of event. So, you guys, if you're watching any type of event that you're having, contact Rose Society. She's going to hook you up with some amazing styling. That way, when you take your pictures, you can look amazing. That's
Yes,
awesome. Huh?
it's very important to have a stylist for photo shoots.
Absolutely. You know what? I when I started, I got introduced to styling, and I was like, what? A stylist? Like I always buy my own clothes. Like, what does that mean? And so, it's different. It's a lot different when you have someone that can, color patterns matter. Shape, sizes. There are
Mhm.
certain things that just works for your body better. That works for your like we're talking about your skin
Yeah,
complexion. That looks great
yeah.
on you, and all of those things are important when you're being styled and when you're doing photo shoots and so forth. So definitely, if you guys are trying to do stuff, events, photos,
Yeah, check me out.
check her out. Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the conversation. I know there's a lot of people that they just want to dive right in, and we're talking about something that is very, very important, and also a very touchy and controversial subject.
Mhm.
When we talk about, skin complexion, and even now in what are we 2021,
Yeah.
there still exists a lot of colorism, and I had to pull up the definition because sometimes people don't, they hear the
Yeah.
word but
It's
they
a,
don't understand the root meaning behind, what colorism is. So colorism is a form of discrimination based on skin tone, and honestly this was something that was started by the beauty industry. So I was curious to see what the numbers were. So um this so it's saying that sales are projected to reach $8.9 billion, and that is the sale of lightening products, bleaching creams, which now they've changed terminology. They changed the name. So you might buy a product that's a lightening agent, but it doesn't say lightening or bleaching on it any longer because of all of the controversy that was surrounded with colorism and just the skin complexions. And
Mhm.
so I want to start from the very beginning. So growing up, Romine, what were some of the cultural biases that you experienced? You know, what did, because you're a dark skinned girl, and
Mhm.
it's almost like, you know, and people don't always understand what it's like to be one versus the other, because they be like, okay, well, you light skin and you never faced anything, and I'm like, no, because then the dark skinned girls is like, well, you light, you like so there's
Sure,
always,
yeah.
you know, so until you're wearing the other shoe, you never really know like what's going
Mhm.
on the other side. So tell us about just what you experienced growing up as a child and with your skin complexion.
I'm Haitian, so growing up Haitian was really difficult, especially because being Haitian or being an islander, I think all islanders know that it's one of the standards for people to be of fairer skin. And
Mhm.
growing up, so I hung out with my cousins a lot. And they were all lighter than me. I think there's two of us in my family that's as dark as I am. So literally everyone else is your complexion or a little bit darker than you. So growing up, I was, even by family members, I was approached to with bleaching cream products. They would tell me, let's bleach so we can all look the same. And because I was different, I was the one who looked different. I was the darkest one. So I wasn't raised to like honor the melanin that was in my complexion. And
Mhm.
you know, our parents growing up, they give you what they got, so they didn't know any better. And
Yeah.
you know, growing up in a Haitian household, you're not really allowed to talk about certain things. You're supposed to just suffer in silence. So even when I was growing up, I wanted to talk about all that I had gone through with my complexion, but you couldn't mention it. Even in school, I would be picked on. They would call me Blackie, Black Crayon. I've got ridiculed all kinds of names. So I didn't grow up, you know, really appreciating my skin color, but it's because of the stigma that's associated with darker complexion women. It's in our movies. You never see just now, like maybe now in 2021, you're starting to see women of my complexion play leading roles. That was never
Mhm.
done uh, prior to that. So it's always been a stigma in our music. They say pick the lighter woman, you know,
Mhm.
commercials. So it was hard. I had to learn to embrace myself and love myself because it was not something that was taught to me. So I had to literally just learn to my own self worth, you know.
Mhm.
So growing up, it was really hard. Islanders, they love their bleaching products. They want you to use it. Um, so it's a process. It's definitely a process, and I wish I knew then what I knew now because I went through a really hard time with that. But you know, that's just a little bit of what I went through as a child and as a teenager. Um,
Okay.
mhm.
So like what were some of the emotions that you were feeling like when you heard, like you said, okay, they called you, like that's kind of mean. Like for
Oh
somebody to say, you know, Blackie or Black Crayon, like
yeah.
especially when you're younger. Like there are things that, you know, we hear now and we could almost like whatever, like we could almost like snicker or laugh at it because it's like
Mhm.
whatever, like I'm beyond that. But your self confidence and your self esteem at that age, you were what? This was your teenage years, I'm assuming, right?
Mhm.
So this was a time period in your life where your confidence was still developing. So you were, I want to say, almost fragile to, you know, what kids were saying, to the things that, you know, you had to go to school to deal with that. And
Mhm.
then growing up, I'm Haitian as well. So they're just think like we just didn't talk about, like you
Mhm.
just didn't talk, like you
You
didn't
couldn't.
complain.
You better be
Like
quiet.
your parents were not concerned about, you know,
They
kids
weren't.
being mean to you. Like that was not a factor. Like their focus was you go to school to get an education. You don't worry about what nobody's saying to you. You don't worry about nobody making fun of you. You go to school to learn. You don't go to school to make friends. So they always, you know, and so how, like my whole thing is like, how did those things make you feel? What are some of the emotional you know, setbacks and things that you felt that you had to overcome in dealing with that?
It made you want to hide. It developed a complex in me where it's like if I wasn't seen, then I wouldn't have no issues. So I wouldn't really participate in any after school activities. I had stricter parents, but some things I could go to, I wouldn't because I just didn't feel like I blended in. So you just want to kind of like just involve yourself in just the shadows of life. So even suicidal thoughts, like going through that because it's constant and it's daily, and it's like when people see you, they say, "Dang, you black!" Like, and it's just they don't understand like mentally what that does to a younger woman growing up. So it was a real issue for me. Yes. So I used to contemplate suicide a lot. I was like, what's the point
Wow.
of being here? I don't need to be here and deal with this. I can just go head on and just take my life and not have to deal with that because they don't know. Like when you constantly hear it, not just in school, but you hear it through, family members and friends, like even the kind of friends that it's kind of like the narcissists that they don't say it directly to you, but they hint at your complexion as to why life is holding you back. So growing up, it was hard. I didn't have any self-worth. It was ultimately a lot of self-hate because I didn't know any better. I wasn't raised to love myself. And Haitians, I don't even know the word for self-esteem in Creole because it's not something you talk about. I don't even know what the word would be. It literally, I can't even tell you, but it's not something I could have went to my mom and be like, "Mom, I hate myself." She'd be like, "Girl, what? Like, get it together." They don't
Yeah.
understand that. They don't understand. And I don't think like as parents, they don't really understand that we do struggle internally as
Mhm.
teenagers. And even in middle school, like I struggled. I hated school. I hated everything about school. I wasn't really a people person. So I developed a complex where it's kind of like I built this box and I hid myself in it. No one was allowed in there other than myself because I didn't trust people. Because I
Mhm.
always felt like they had some kind of hidden agenda because that's what I experienced being darker. Like even you had friends in school, like they'll hang out with you, but when their real friends come, it's kind of like, oh, I wouldn't hang out with her just because of my
Mm.
skin. So it was it was
Yeah. Yeah, I can only and me, I'm on the other end of the spectrum,
mhm.
but I realized, like, I had a lot of friends that were, and honestly, it wasn't something that I went through per se,
Mhm.
but I would see, and I was always just someone who just, I think I had the gift. God just blessed me. I just always had confidence until it was time for me to go through that journey,
Mhm.
and that was all tied in with my purpose, because sometimes you have to go through it. And the thing is, the important factor is that you didn't go through it for you. You went through it for all the people that you would
Correct.
impact later on in life. And
Mhm.
in some ways, it it really shaped you and molded you into the woman that you are. And so there's so many things we go through in our lives and we're like, why did I have to go through that? And the funny thing is, like, God has a way of circling that thing around so
Mhm.
that it's almost like a tool that you needed for the next phase of your life. And
Absolutely.
not necessarily just for you, but for so many other people. I'm willing to bet that there's been times where you've had to have a conversation with someone, and
Oh, yes.
you can
Mhm.
pull from that experience, and you can say, you know what, I dealt with this, and and it's different because when you've dealt with something, you come from a place of empathy. You
Yeah.
know, you come from a place of understanding. You're able to show that person that I not only hear you, but I feel you. Like, I get
Right.
exactly what you're going through because I dealt with a similar situation, and this is how I overcame. And look at me, I'm still standing, and look at what I've accomplished despite what I felt, or the hurt, or the pain. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There are things that, yeah, you're going to go through it, but like, here's me on the other side. And
Correct.
sometimes people need to see that. They need to see the other side, because when you're in it, it's so hard to be like,
It
you
is.
know,
You don't see another side. You don't see light at the end of the tunnel. But
at
it's
all.
true. I do. I know for a fact that I was rescued to go back and rescue, and I have had many conversations with people about complexion and self worth because he took me through that journey so I can reach back and help someone else. So I don't regret any of it, but it just I'm glad we're having this conversation today because people don't talk enough about it, and it still exists very much so. So yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about lightening agents,
Mm.
lightening creams, bleaching creams, and just all of these different things that it's almost like women. And for me, so I've taken on the confidence mantle. Like that is just something, a message that I preach, a message of confidence. And with me, it was weight. I grew up heavy set.
Mhm.
And honestly, I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. I didn't really deal with it. It happened for me at the other end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
So at the age of 19, I went through a very traumatic weight loss experience where I lost all of this weight. It was quick, it was fast. I was sick and I lost all this weight. And out with the weight went my confidence and my self-esteem, and I had never dealt with that. I was 19 years old and I didn't know what insecurity was. I didn't know what low self-esteem
Mhm.
was. So growing up, I always had it. So I was not really sympathetic to that until I went through that experience. So when I went through that experience and I lost all this weight, here I am, 19 years old, I'm a skinny girl, and I hated seeing myself. Like I hated looking at the mirror. I hate, now to the world, it was like, okay, you got a pretty face, you got, you're
Mhm.
slim, and I would go home and I would hide all the mirrors because I didn't know who the person was. Like I
Sure.
was used to myself being heavy. I knew how to deal with that. I love that person. But the skinny Gigi, I didn't know her.
Mhm.
I didn't have time to get to know her because I lost all this. It's almost like I lost a part of me. And so the confidence journey is something that is so important. And I know so many people deal with, and today we're talking about skin complexion, and I talk about weight loss, and I talk about all these things, whether it's hair texture, there's so many different complexities. There's so many different things that as women we deal with that impact our self-confidence in one way or another. And so I really just want women to understand that, your confidence, like it comes from within, and it's something that God gives you. Like God said, it says it in the Bible, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And sometimes we negate all of that, and we always try to fix something. And so
Mhm.
lightening creams and bleaching agents, and I've seen some horror stories about women that have tried to lighten their skin or bleach their skin or try to get to be a certain complexion. And so how do you feel about these products and about just what it does to us, like just share.
Well, colorism, I believe, is racism's child. Um,
That's
why
a
I
good
say
way to put
that
it.
is because even back in the day when it was slavery existed, that's where it was rooted in that. As you can see in all the movies, they had the fair complexion women working in the house because that
Hmm.
way the masters could produce children with them, and the wives of these these men would never really know that they were messing around with the light fair women because the children would still be pretty light. And that's even around the time where they did the paper bag test. So they would hold a paper bag up to your face to see if if you're at least that light, so they can consider you a human being, really. So even back then, it produced a stigma, even in slavery, where the ones in the cotton fields would hate the women who were in the house because the darker ones had to work the field and they got to work in the house. So it started way back then. So when we continue, we were stuck in that mindset. As people of color, it's a very bad thing that still it's it it's a pretty much a cancerous part of society. So when I see the bleaching creams and all that goes with that, the people who not only bleach, or they come and do their makeup and they take themselves to a whole different height of color, which is not really their complexion, because they don't know it's underlying self-hate. They don't know that it's really it's a disadvantage to them as a person. So as you already stated before, it's $1 billion industry. So the world is never going to tell you to switch that. They're going to continue to produce things after that likeness because that's what they want you to become. They want you to mimic after that. But I would tell anyone who's bleaching to be careful. Not just because I'm not pro bleaching cream, but because of what it does to your skin. It's literally stripping you of substance in your skin, and they wonder, like, I've met people, you can literally see their veins in their face because they bleach so much, or they
Hmm.
have like extreme acne because of all the excessive bleaching. So
Hmm.
they're literally destroying the chemicals in their skin used to protect them. So when you strip yourself of melanin as a black person, when you go out there in the sun, it not only sunburns you, but it causes cancerous skin.
Yeah.
I read up a little bit about it, and it said, in the UK, they've blocked bleaching agents in the UK. Anything with
Mm.
mercury, because the mercury is so detrimental to your skin, they have literally, you cannot buy it, you will not find it. They produce articles about it. The steroids or the mercury is completely banned because of the potential serious side effects, which it strips, removing the top layer of skin, increasing the risk of skin cancer. It will cause fatal liver and kidney damage. People don't know that. You're bleaching your
Mhm.
skin when you're doing your kidneys damage, and you're destroying your liver through the products that you're putting
Mhm.
on your skin to achieve a look that society told you was okay. But until we learn
And
to,
they don't even see you.
they don't even see you. Until we learn to not live by society's image of beauty, their beauty standards. You have to create your own beauty standards, and
That's right.
like that's what I learned. I became what I pictured as beautiful, and once it didn't happen until I found Christ.
Mhm.
He centered me. He taught me self-worth. I learned to see myself through his eyes instead of the world's
The
eyes.
world's view.
So
Yeah.
because of that, I found self-worth, and I really did become fearfully and wonderfully made. I really knew that I had to reprogram my mind through what society said. So even now, when I watch movies and I see certain stuff, it no longer affects me because of the process I went through. But I would say to anyone, please be careful. It's not worth it. Um, you are beautiful as is. Like, God didn't make a mistake when He made you dark skinned. He didn't make a mistake when He made you light skinned. We are who we are, and until we stand in the real strength in being who you are, being authentically yourself, it will never really rise as a people, because it produces more issues than just skin complexion. Then once you change your skin complexion, then your hair needs to be straight, and it has to be,
Oh gosh, you find another problem.
yeah,
It's a vicious cycle. It
correct.
just continues.
Yes, then you got to fix your nose. Then your
Mhm.
body isn't good enough. Then you got to get rid of like every single flaw. So it's just a domino effect. You start with one problem and it continues, because
Mhm.
once that mindset is in you, you'll always see yourself in a place of defeat and not being enough. So myself, I had to go through a process of learning that, Romine, you are enough. You
Mhm.
have always been enough, but
That's
now
right.
you actually see that you are more than enough. So I would say to people, be careful. Accept yourself as who you are. There, if you're worried about not finding a husband or a wife, there is someone for everyone. And if they can't love you for your skin complexion, you'll have deeper problems in the end, anyways. So,
Absolutely. And you know what's so funny is like the person that God has set aside for you is
mhm,
gonna love you for you, flaws
exactly.
and all.
Flaws and all.
Like the thing that you probably dislike most about yourself is probably gonna be the thing that that person is just like, oh, I just love that.
Mhm.
I just love that about you, you know? And so sometimes as women, we the way that we view ourselves, like it's almost like we should ask God, like, allow me to see what you see.
Correct.
And we would be amazed at what God sees versus what we see when we're looking at the mirror. And
Mhm.
um I was an esthetician. I was an esthetician for a number of years. Honestly, the reason I went to school to be an esthetician was because when I lost all the weight, my skin started. I just had breakouts. I had never dealt with breakouts and acne. Like I went through all my teenage years and I just had flawless skin. So when I lost all the weight, my skin started just going out of control. It was crazy. And so I was like, I need to fix this. Like, and I'm a learner. Like anybody who knows me,
Oh yeah.
like people that follow me, they're like, okay, Gigi, how many more degrees are you gonna get? What you in school for now? Like what you doing now? Like I'm always learning, and I always like I want to know for me. You know, it's not really, I didn't go to school so I could just do everybody else makeup. I want to know how to do my makeup. I wanted to know how to do my facial and how to fix my skin. And so one of the things that I learned while I was in school as an esthetician is that there's just so much discrimination in the skin and beauty industry.
Oh yeah.
And so me going into that field, it was like an eye opener for me because first of all, it was difficult for me to even get clients that were African American
Mm.
because there was just so much of lack of knowledge that existed within our culture, because we weren't like facials wasn't, this is years ago, facials wasn't like, that it wasn't a thing that we were doing. And so and then even when I started working in the beauty counters, there weren't everybody's complexion, the foundation was not available.
Nope.
There were like people would come in and they wanted to try on a foundation, and I'm over here like, I think that might work, like, because the skin, like the color patterns, like they didn't go past a certain number. Like there were certain lines and certain brands that I was lucky if they had my color, and I'm pretty fair, and so it wasn't until I started working in that industry that I realized some of the biases that still existed, and it's just so crazy. And I worked for Estee Lauder. Shout out to Estee Lauder, because they have like everybody's color, y'all. Number one foundation in America. Okay, I love Estee Lauder.
I love Juvia's Place. Juvia's Place is really nice. That's what I'm wearing tonight.
Okay,
it's really good.
Okay.
And whatever you buy from her, she gives a percentage back to Africa. So
that's cool.
Juvia's Place would be my person.
Type that in the chat. That way people can check it out. Okay. And but definitely, like, there's so many things that, as women, like we struggle, we deal with all of these things, and it has such a emotional toll on us, such an impact that sometimes we continue to deal with for years to come. And the other thing that I've come to realize is that little girls are watching their moms. And so when, we as women don't deal with certain issues, we now pass that on to our children, and it becomes this generational curse of just a vicious cycle of things. And it's like, there were things I'm sure that I dealt with, and it was like, I wasn't supposed to deal with that. Like, why didn't my parents tell me that, this was not like what it was supposed to be? And so I'm so super like happy that, God took me through that thing, so that I can help as many little girls, little brown girls, and just every girl, honestly, because I have a passion to really help ignite confidence in the lives of girls, because I feel like it's so needed. And because I went through it, I don't want nobody else to have to go through that insecurity where you don't want to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, like nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should wake up and, like you said, you were having thoughts of like, okay, I shouldn't be here. Like, no woman, no girl, like none of us should have to face, just these emotional things because of something just as simple as the skin, the complexion that we are. Like, I feel like that is just so crazy.
It's really a mental bondage that we have to help our people with, because it's something our parents didn't know. They didn't think that was an issue. So for us, I believe it's pressed on your heart, because we are the generation that will deal with that stuff, who was not afraid to speak out on it and talk about the difficult subjects. And that's why our young brown girls, they don't love themselves, because nobody teaches them that. They don't teach them self-worth from now. Like, I have my brother, from now, he tells my niece every day, "You're beautiful." And he asks her, "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm beautiful, and I'm Samaya, and I'm this, and I'm that." So if we teach them now, later on, they already know their self. They know they were born a queen. They're young queens, and they won't fall for everything. Now in the rap music, like, they teach them to be all these video vixens and all this stuff, and they don't know. So they go for the world that's teaching them, because we're not saying anything. We're scared to talk about it because it's a stigma. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't teach them here, they'll learn it from the world, and it'll be incorrect, and it'll be too late to fix it. So we wait till they're pretty much past the point of being receptive to what we have to say to try to reach them. We don't need to wait till that long. We have a voice now. And I think another thing that we start with is we don't let children talk. When I was younger, you shut up. You go to your room, you stay in a child's place. You don't have no opinion about nothing. But they have something to say. But when we strip them of their voice, we strip them of their identity. So what can they tell us about how they're feeling and their internal struggles when they can't speak to us? And we should be, as I'm not a parent yet. I'm not there yet, but one day I will be. And I don't want my little girl not to be able to talk to me because I've stripped her of her voice when I'm supposed to be a safe place for her, because I can share with her what I've gone through and she can avoid those barriers and avoid those ditches. But if I can't speak to her and I can't see that she's suffering silently, and I can't see that she wants to say something, but she can't come out and just speak to me. And I think Islanders especially have a bad problem with letting a woman have a voice, or just as a woman, society tells you, sit down, shut up, and look pretty, so it's different. I see what my first lady goes through, like as a minister, because she preaches the gospel. And even in church world, women are not really supposed to be preachers, but she breaks the barriers because she has something to say, and it's of substance, and we're supposed to be voiced, we're not supposed to be silenced. So until we start teaching our little girls to speak out, then we can't help them. It's the voice first. I think once we get past the bondage mentally, they can speak to us and they can tell us what they're struggling with, and we can help them. It's so many issues. So
it is. And I tell you, I work with young girls, and the things, and sometimes parents don't understand that what you dealt with when you were young, they're dealing with that 10 times the degree.
They don't believe it though. They're like, what you have no bill.
And it's so easy for us to be like, oh, you a baby, you don't have no problems. But just remember, like when you were a child, you felt like it could have been something so simple, like, oh my gosh, it could have been something simple, but to you, it was a big deal.
Right.
Like it could have been like, oh my God, like, oh, they made fun of me at school. And to your parents, obviously, it's like, 10 years down the line, you're not going, but at that moment, for you, what you were going through. And sometimes as parents, one of the biggest things that, girls complain to me about is that, well, my parents, they don't think that I'm going through anything, or they don't think that this is, and it's true. Somebody just posted perspective, and it's based on perspective. You may not think whatever I'm going through is difficult or is hard, but I do. And so we have to listen to our little girls that are telling us they're crying out. Like a lot of the things that they do, it's a cry for help.
Yes.
It's a cry for attention. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the wrong kind of attention, yes. But it's important that we realize that they're seeking something. They're seeking something that the world cannot give them. And if we don't open up our hearts to receive them and to tell them, like, okay, it's so simple. When you ever see, like, when parents would be like, don't do that, but they don't tell you why, or they don't tell you.
I'm curious. You got to tell me a why, or I'm gonna do it just because you said don't do it, because I really want to know what it is. So if you
they tell you, don't do that. Like a big example, it'd be like, don't have sex. And and that's the end of the conversation. Like, you better not open your mouth to say nothing about that. They just say you don't do it. They don't go through, the heartbreak. They don't go through the biblical aspects. They don't go through, what a soul tie is. They don't go through the hurt and the pain and the cycle that you're going to go through for years to get over that relationship and to get over that person that you bonded your soul with. And so they just say, oh, don't do it. So you're like, well, I don't know.
That's one of the reasons why we have so many unsuccessful marriages, because not just the soul ties, but when you get into these relationships and you give your body to a man or a woman, it's back in the day, we used to use sex as a ritual. It's not just sex. We used to use it as a way to literally minister to whoever it was who was dealing with sexually. And it opens other avenues for masturbation, which is another issue. And they don't tell you that you create a whole spirit wife or spirit husband. They don't tell you. So they just tell you don't do it, and you better not do it because I said so. But they're gonna do it because we're not those kind of people. We want to know why
this generation, we are the generation of why. And I'm thinking, like, okay, the kids that's coming up now, I'm like, oh gosh, they're like, even like, you gotta tell them, show them. They're the show me, tell me, give me an explanation. I want to see a YouTube video to back it up. And so it is so important that, the way that we deal with our children just has to change. Like, I do a lot of research because I deal in the youth space, and suicide rates are they're at the top. Like
Yeah.
it's more kids commit suicide than car accidents, health illnesses, any other ailment that would cause them to die.
Hmm.
Suicide is the number one. And
But we're,
so as a society, we have to come to say, what's the problem? And self-confidence, self-esteem, like people downplay self-esteem. They be like, oh yeah, okay, you insecure. Okay. But it stems from everything. Like it's gonna impact every single
everything,
thing that
every
you
part
do
of your
in
life.
life.
That's true.
How you speak, how you talk, how you walk, how you carry yourself, how you just every single thing that you're going to do is going to stem from it's yourself. It's
Hmm.
going to how you view yourself, how you esteem yourself. And so we downplay self-confidence. We downplay, oh, okay, well, oh yeah, you got hurt or somebody talked about you or
Yeah,
something.
big
And it's
deal.
like, big deal, get over it. And it's like, no, these are things like children are being bullied, children are taking their lives. Like to me, a 10-year-old committing suicide is like, if that's not an eye opener that we as a society, it is time for us to stand up. It is time for us to wrap our arms around our children and tell them that they are beautiful, and tell
Yes.
them that they are loved, tell them that they are worthy, they are precious, they are lovely, they are fearfully and wonderfully made. If that's not an eye opener, then I don't know. Like, I just don't know what is.
That's true. Another issue is because we also have a weaker generation. Unfortunately, this generation can't take nothing. Like
Mm-mm.
we went through some heavy stuff. This generation, you just look at them wrong and they already ready to commit suicide or just hurt themselves. But it's because I believe the parents and society shields them more from
Yeah,
trouble. When I was
yeah.
growing up, whatever my mom went through, she shared it with me. Any trial, any kind of anything she was dealing with, that she said the world is hard. She let me know from jump. It would be
Yeah.
extremely hard for you. She didn't shield me from whatever she was going through. So until we stop shielding these children from what creates strength within them, it's like when you ask God for strength, what does He do? He takes you through trials that produces
Mhm.
strength. Unless we can go through things that can produce the inner strength that we need to survive, we will never become that generation that could take a little bit more. This generation is absolutely the weakest generation I've ever seen, and I'm sorry to say it, but it is what it is. And also what they also do is they open up their children to a demonic form of television, like certain shows that people watch. I just wouldn't let my children watch it. Like what is the one that she committed suicide? What is it? 13 Reasons Why.
Oh,
And
that was deep.
it was deep, but it
It
was
was
it was not something
crazy.
I would open up and let my child watch, just because it's saying to her that if you are sexually abused in any way, please take your life. But we've
Yeah.
all been there because of what is implanted in food. We already overly. When I was growing up, I was already overly produced as a woman. Like my body was a woman's body. By the time I was 10, I had whatever a woman had because of the contents that the food produces now, and all the poor habits, the poor things in it. So that's another thing. We don't teach them to learn. Like if you go through something, it won't kill you. You don't need to take your life because you were sexually abused. We've been through it. You can overcome it. And here's how I did it. Instead, we show them television that tells them it's okay to just kill yourself. No, I would
Yeah.
never let my child watch 13 Reasons Why ever.
I feel like in that movie was or that it was a series. That
It's
series.
a
So I
series.
did. So I did watch the series. I watched it because I wanted to see what it was about.
I did too.
And because I work with teenagers, like I wanted to know
Mhm.
what they were talking about. And it was very dark. And but the other thing about it is it just showed how the cruelty
Yeah.
of kids. Like
Hmm.
I was a substitute teacher for a while. Let me tell you, like these kids, they have no. First of all, they can't take they can't take it, but boy, they
No,
can dish it.
they dish it out until
They
you come for
can
them.
dish it. They are ruthless. They are mean. I have seen these kids pull some stunts on their classmates, and I'm like, woo. Because like growing up, I feel like it was more, I guess in my time, like yeah, we made fun of each other and people did the whole cracking jokes thing, but
Yeah, it's malicious now. Now it's
it
like,
was nowhere near what these kids are doing now. Like these kids are ruthless.
yeah.
Now you've added cyberbullying. So it's
Mhm.
like they can't even, okay, I got to deal with this at school. Then I come home and I got to deal with this on the internet too. I got to deal with it on my Snapchat. I got to deal with it on my Facebook and Instagram and everything. And so it's like, between bullying and cyberbullying, like they're dealing with a lot. They're dealing with a lot of emotional baggage, and they feel like they almost don't have, um, they almost don't have anything that, like, they don't have an outlet. Like they can't talk to mom and dad. They can't talk to, their friends, because their friends are part of the bullying. They almost don't have a sort, like they don't have anybody to go to. And so sometimes,
yeah, that's true. We need to normalize again, like mental health counselors. We need ones that are, like-minded, like faith, so that we can go to someone. When I was growing up in high school, if it wasn't for my guidance counselors, I don't know if I would have made it through high school. Like I ran to them for everything, and they were really helpful. But you don't have the kind of guidance counselors now anymore that exists where they actually want to help you. Like,
get a number.
Until we have more mentors and people who say it's okay if you're feeling crazy, if you're slicing yourself in the bathroom and you're slicing your wrist, or if you're burning yourself with there's another show now that just came out. It's called Ginny in Georgia. It's on Netflix as well. It shows a teenager, when she goes through, her mom doesn't even know that she takes a lighter and she lights it to her skin until she feels some kind of release. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she takes a lighter and she burns her skin until she feels a release. But that's a problem. And her mom has no clue. That she doesn't even notice like what's going on with her daughter. So until we need to normalize again mental health counselors, we need to put it in our churches. We need to let them know if you're feeling away, it's okay to come talk to someone. We have to be more open, to be receptive of whatever they're going through, no matter what it sounds. But people are lazier too. They don't want to deal. They don't want to process. If you're calling them, they don't want to answer the phone. And eventually you become some kind of burden to people. So person like me, if I'm going through something and I call you one time and you like huffing and puffing, like I'm bothering you, never again. Like you'll never hear from me again. No, seriously, like I'm that girl. If I ask you one time and you acting funny, then just forget it. But we need more counselors. We need more people who are after their mental, like, are you okay mentally? But how are you really, who are able to see?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I work in the mental health space and I work with adolescents. And one of the biggest things they talk about is that, oh, they don't believe me. They just think I'm bad. And that's what they say. That's what they say. They'll say, oh, well, my mom doesn't even believe I don't even know why I'm here, because my mom doesn't even believe that I have a mental illness. And these kids are dealing with some demons. Like they're dealing with some hard stuff. They're dealing with past hurt. They're dealing with a lot of them are dealing with sexual abuse that parents don't even know it happened.
No.
And so there's just so much that are on them. And it's so important that we as a generation of women, like we have to reach down and grab these little girls and put our arms around them, because if not, the next generation is in trouble.
It's
like
huge.
We're gonna almost, it's like we're gonna be extinct, because it's like it's like, like nobody, just the way that some of the things that I learned as a young girl, I feel like there's just a lack of knowledge with these young girls. There's a lot of things they just don't know. Like there's a lot of things that they know that they shouldn't know, but then there's a lot of things like they don't cope. Somebody had posted in the chat, coping skills, like how to cope, how to deal, how to relate, how to communicate. Like we live in a world where technology is, like kids, like I see kids in, like when they're writing, like they don't even know how to write because they're so busy texting. Everything is an initial. I gotta have a dictionary just to figure out what you're saying, because you done typed up so many like abbreviations, and I'm like, do I get a code to decode this message? And so and it's like, oh my gosh, like what are we doing? And I know we're talking, we done went like way left because we started off talking about the complexity, but all of this is part of it. Like all of this is so important because there's just so much. Someone wrote something and I wanted to read it. Deacon Thomas, they said the parents didn't have an avenue to speak up and out, so it gets passed down to the next generation because they didn't know how with what to deal with it. Every generation is getting more intensive. People keep, hold on, it went away. Where did it go? Okay, here we go. So every generation is getting more intensive than what the past generation experienced. And it's so true. I completely agree. Like not only are we carrying, because you have to think the kids nowadays have dealt with things that in this time, okay, we talking about a pandemic.
Yeah.
We're talking about they done dealt with seeing presidential I don't even know what to call it. I'm just gonna leave that alone. Y'all figure that out. They have dealt with this movement of uh Black Lives Matter.
Mm.
They have dealt with it's just like I could go on and on and on and on about all of the things that they have dealt with. And a lot of times they don't have an outlet. You know, if you're a mom and you're watching this, like, have you sat down with your daughter and said, how do you feel about this pandemic?
Yes.
Have you sat down, like, just like we, like, as you know, adults, we went through, like, we were shut in the house. Like, you have to remember, like, they were out of school, and they had to be in their rooms and home all the time. And so it was an adjustment for you. So I'm sure it was an adjustment for them. You know, so you don't know what's going on mentally in their minds. Like, mental health is an issue. It is real. Like, and coming up from a Haitian background, Haitian culture, it's like that doesn't even exist. Like, it's like, okay, what do you mean? Like, you possess, like, you know, like, but mental health is real. And these kids are dealing with a lot of baggage. They're dealing with a lot of things, and there's not an outlet. They're not talking about it. And because they're not talking about it, they're taking matters into their own hands. It's leading them to drugs. It's leading them to sex. It's leading them to promiscuity. It's leading them to other avenues, trying to different things, trying to find their own coping mechanisms, burning, cutting, just anything that will give them. I've had some little girls tell me, I just want to feel something. Like, what? And she says,
girls are when they're promiscuous, that's people think, oh, they just want to give their bodies to anyone, but they're channeling something. And it goes back to, I think Chanel Thomas said it when she said coping skills. And Chanel Thomas is actually she's a therapist, so she counsels a lot of young kids, so that she's familiar with the problems of society. So even growing up, I heard like a lot of parents say, what goes on in my house stays in my house mentality. It gets stuck with you. So you feel like kind of like, not that you're a snitch, but it's kind of like whatever my mom's having in her house, I can't speak on it. I would get in severe trouble. But what goes on in my house, it can't stay in your house. You can't just sweep it under the rug, because what you do is you're creating a mess. So coping skills is absolutely important. Someone, an outlet that they can trust, or otherwise they will resort themselves to or being over sexualized, or you know, just giving their body to anyone, because the first boy that says she's beautiful because she never heard it. So because he said she jumped right into bed with him because she has no self-worth. She never heard these terms. Like,
I heard it. It's foreign. It's a foreign language.
And we can't do that anymore as people. We can't continue that way. So until we teach them to create their own beauty standards and speak up, speak out, we're going to have problems. And coping must.
We are. Yeah. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because it's so needed. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're winding down. We have a few minutes left, and we're going to be talking. But this conversation needed to happen, because we have to let people know that it's time. Like, it's time to stop this nonsense. Like, I feel like sometimes people still make the ignorant comments, you know, about skin color, you know, about just like, you know, and it's like, we are in 2021. Like, are you serious? But even society, it's like, what is society teaching us? Like, it's now that we're starting to see, and I'm so appreciative when I see commercials that feature, you know, somebody that's different. Like, I love to see a commercial and the girl is not a size 2, because I can relate. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I don't want to see the same, you know, the same image.
Our kinky hair, you know, someone who is, you know, who doesn't have straight hair and has hair texture that can match mine, like someone who looks like me. So I agree with you.
Show me something. And and I feel like that's what little girls are looking for. Like, when they look just like when we were growing up, and it's like we looking at the TV and everybody hair was straight, we was gonna go and get that hot comb, and we want to
Yeah,
straighten
they're looking for
our hair too.
replicas of themselves, people who look like what they look like. So it's important that we do that. And but even adults now, people in their 40s and 50s, they have not yet embraced themselves. So until we start, letting that natural hair out, showing them that natural hair is beautiful, letting your skin be what it is. And I know people who can't spend one day without makeup, and that's another problem. Like you should be able to be,
You
naturally.
should be able to be you.
Because the world runs out of makeup, there's a lot of people in trouble. So
Listen, honey, listen.
you just
They're
gotta,
in a lot of trouble.
yeah,
They better have stocks of it.
I know I'm in trouble. If the world ever runs out of weave, I know I have a problem. I will be in
Listen,
trouble.
I love my makeup. Look, I ain't gonna lie. I love me some makeup. I think it's so much fun. I just love playing in it.
I know.
But at the same time, taking the confidence journey, I can go out and if it ain't none, hey, y'all just gonna get this. Like it is what it
That's
is,
it.
you know. But at the same time, I feel like the little girls that are coming up, they there's a lot of things they don't know. There's a lot of things they have not been taught, and I think it's a charge us as women, like because I went through a confidence issue and because I went through a time period of insecurity, like I've made it my mission to ignite confidence. Like everything I do, it's like, my message is a message of hope. Like
Right.
I want every little girl to know, like, you are beautiful, you are important, you are smart. And I want you to know that. And I want you to ignite your power. I want you to live in your purpose, and I want you to roam this earth like the way that God created you. God created you to have dominion and power. And so like I feel like it's so important that as women we pass that down. Like we went through this, but everybody, like your whole the next, like we went through it so that you don't have to.
Exactly. Well, that's another thing too. This generation, that's not good enough for them. Like even though we went through it, so they don't have to. They don't want that anymore. Some of them, they have to go through the process in order to be able to, understand. Oh, okay. It's kind of like, even though like it goes back to what you said when you're like, if you don't explain to them thoroughly why not to do certain things, they will always do it. So I
But that's a communication issue, because like how much are we communicating? Like I'm so happy, like when I reached out to you, you were like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, how many of these conversations are we having? How many times are we sitting down with a little girl saying, tell me? A lot of times we want to talk. And that's important too. And that's important. We need to talk to them. We need to sit them down. But how many times are we saying, honey, tell me what's going on with you?
Yeah.
Tell me what you're dealing with. Tell me how school is. Tell me how you feel about your hair. Tell me how you feel about your skin color. Tell me how you feel about your
Those are the
size.
questions. Yes. Good question.
Yeah. Like if you don't, like, tell me you don't like your legs, or you don't like your, and it's a like I tell people, like confidence and self-esteem, it is a journey. It is not a destination. Because somebody, Roro Nesca, she said, I'm 27 and I'm still learning. And it's so true. Like you never get to the place, because at every phase of life, there's always going to be something that you're learning about yourself. And you're always like, confidence is, because it's a journey, you're on that journey. There are days you're going to wake up and you're like, you know what, I am not feeling me today. And that's okay.
It's true. It's waking up every day and making a conscious decision to say, okay, well, you may not feel pretty today, but you are beautiful. It literally, I used to put sticky notes on my mirror. So when I wake up in the morning, I would read either a scripture or something encouraging to remind myself daily. I had to literally reprogram my mind. And every day I still have to continue to adjust that mindset, because otherwise you'll fall right back into it. I used to tell my first lady, Sarah Palmer, she's on here too. I used to tell all the time, I'm like, okay, listen, I know I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but I'm going to buy me some hips, because I ain't got none. I'm going to give me some booty, because I ain't got none. Because that's another thing they used to pick me on, because they, I didn't have enough for what Black people considered acceptable. So some days I still say that, because I still feel like, God, you didn't give me enough. So
and listen, I'm always like, God, you gave me too much. Because you get rid of some.
Exactly, it's not fair. But you learn to deal with, you learn to dress up how, and that's another reason I got into fashion too. I wanted to show women of all shapes and sizes that you can wear anything. You just have to know how to contour it, make it look, adjust it to your body structure, adjust it to your, yourself, because people, just because they make it in your size doesn't mean you should buy it. So I do believe that,
Listen, just because it zips doesn't mean it fits.
exactly. So that's another reason. Yeah. So styling that's another avenue for me of self-esteem, and I did it because they told me I couldn't. I remember they told me you can't wear makeup. They don't even make your color. You can't dress like this because you cannot. You can't tell me nothing.
Exactly. And it's so crazy, but it's so important because and I'm so happy. Like, I love to see your brand. I celebrate you. I celebrate your accomplishments. I celebrate you making a mark and you making a statement, because it's like, who said? Who said I couldn't be, that? Or who said I couldn't do that?
That's true.
And so it's so important. And that's what I want for our little girls. I want them to be able to say, I can. Like, why not? Like, and it's like, there's no, like, I don't have to be a cookie cutter. I don't have to fit this mold that society has carved out for me, because I am the mold. I create. Okay. I create it, and so I'm so happy. I have to read this comment. So Pat Gusler said, I have to tell you all this. I'm 81 years young. I'm white, and I remember ironing my hair to make it straight. When we all learn that we all have a soul and are the same to our Lord, maybe we will learn how to love each other for who we are. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Pat, for commenting that. That is so true. And the thing and we've had this conversation, light skin versus dark skin, skin complexion. But on the other side of the spectrum, there's always something. Like, we are all dealing with something. Pat said 81 years young, and she like some of the things that we as women we go through. Like, I know the hot comb, and she talking about an iron. So there's so many things. We put ourselves through so many things in the name of what society has described as beauty. And it's like, okay, Monique just wrote, we are our own standard of beauty. And that is so true. I completely agree with that. We define beauty. Your beauty, I'm beauty. We make what beauty is. Beauty is all of us. It encompasses every single part of you, who you are, who God created you to be. We are all beautiful. And so I have just loved having this conversation with you guys. We have to get going. I know y'all don't want to be here with me all night. And so I want to wrap it up. So before we close out, Romine, tell us what are some of the things that people, that our listeners, what are some of the things that they can do? Because the purpose of this is to reach back to the next generation, is to help those that are watching. I hope that this conversation, somebody just wrote, we need a part 2. Listen, I am all down for it. Let me see. This is Sydney. I had to build confidence with my face structure. People always come to me saying that my face is too strong. Because of that, I never really like being on camera or taking pictures. Turns out people pay for this sculptured face. Listen, everything that you think is wrong, something is wrong with, somebody out there is praying for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people be like, oh, I'm too fat. Like, you talking about, okay, I don't have enough booty. I'm always like, oh God, I got too much. I'm trying to get it to go down so that the attention is not on the butt. People got little boobs, they want big boobs, they go out and buy more. I'm like, I can't even comprehend why you would go and add to this that I'm trying to get rid of. And so it's so crazy that we as and having these conversations. Sometimes one of the things I do when I'm in the room with the girls is I have them all give each other a compliment.
I love that.
And one of the things that it always amazes me, anytime I do it, anytime I'm in a room with a whole bunch of girls, I'm like, okay, compliment this one, compliment that one. And whatever this one tells that one is always like, oh, I don't like that about myself. Oh, I don't. And then it turns into this dialogue and this conversation, and they start discovering, it's almost like when you go and get your hair done and you look at it, you like, but then the minute somebody said, oh, girl, I like your hair, it's like this little bit of confidence just comes. And then another another person said, "Oh, girl, I like your hair. Oh, I like what you're doing with that hair." Then you like, or like
It's
you
like
working
growing.
out.
Like,
You
okay.
know, you working out, you going to the gym, and you're like, "Man, I ain't losing no weight." But the minute somebody said, "Have you been losing weight?" You
Well,
like,
maybe a
"Oh."
little,
You're like, "Oh, wait a minute now." And
That's
so it's
true.
the same thing. Like we as women, like we have to start complimenting other women. We have to start just complimenting our young girls. Like they need to be affirmed. We need to go back to living a life full of affirmations. We just need to affirm, affirm, affirm. And so it is so important. Thank you, Pat. Pat said I have a soft spirit. Well, praise God. And so we definitely need to continue to just do that. So, Romy, with that being said, give us just like your final words of whether it be encouragement, your final words of just, how we can start. Like, we're not going to obviously do this in one day, but how can we start to just break this bias, this cycle of, black dark skin and dark skin, light skin, and this is a good color, this is not a good color, and all this stuff.
I would say pay attention. A lot of it has to do with just simply paying attention. If you see a little girl, she used to be one way, and now she's a little different. She's a little bit more reserved. She's standoffish. Children speak, with their exterior. We're just not listening to them. So if you see, someone who used to be a little bit more lively, a child who's a little different, they may be starting going through a phase that is truly affecting them. You never know. Just ask. It doesn't hurt to take 1 second. Like, ask the child, "Are you okay? You seem a little different." They may not say yes the first time, but continue to pursue them and make sure that they're okay. I would also say become the change you want to see. A lot of times we tell children one thing and we live another way. So be what you want them to be. Become the change. Talk about your struggles. Like, don't be afraid to say, "This one, I didn't feel pretty today. When I came, I didn't feel good." Even today when my first lady was preaching, she was saying, like, I had a moment where I didn't want nothing to do. I didn't want to do this anymore. Like, I said, "Leave me alone." I was like, "God, you can have this." So in her, vulnerability, in her being just transparent, we need more transparency. We're so
Yes.
fake. We're so done up. We're so put together. Like, even tonight with this makeup, this ain't me. Sydney did this. I never do this. So it's a mask behind this. A lot of people do this because they're suffering behind all this makeup, and they're not really speaking on it. So I just think paying attention is very important. Learning self-worth, teaching it, talking about it. When you're having a moment, speak on it. I'm never afraid to speak. If I'm not feeling pretty today, I'm gonna say, I'm not feeling pretty today. Just continue to be organically authentic. It's important to be good and be nice. Like, sometimes as simple as when you see someone in the grocery store, you tell them, compliment each other. Women have such a hard time complimenting each other. Like, if you see another girl, she looks beautiful, stop her and say, "You look beautiful." I do that in a minute. I'd be like, "Girl, your hair is nice. You look wonderful today." Because just that compliment, you don't know what it can do for someone who's been having a really bad day. You don't know how you can turn it around. Just 1 second of complimenting someone. I don't ever be afraid to compliment someone. It doesn't take from you to say, "You look beautiful today." It doesn't take from you to say anything from you to just stop for a second and say, "I like what you have on. You look nice today." Continue to talk to your children. I'm not a mother yet, but if I was a mother, I would talk to my daughter, at least once a month. Take her out. Not in a home setting. You're always at home. Take her out somewhere, maybe for a Cold Stone, some ice cream. Speak to her. Ask her the hard questions that mothers are afraid to ask. How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel beautiful? Do you like your hair? How do you feel about your body? And changes. Because when I was growing up, I couldn't understand why I had breasts already and some girls didn't have it. So I felt like, like an alien, like, what's going on?
That part.
You're forming out. How do you feel about your body now that it's changing? Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? How do you feel internally? Until we ask these uncomfortable questions, we're never going to get anywhere. Ask the questions, please, parents. Ask the questions. Pay attention. Never be out saving the world and forget home. That's
Exactly.
another problem.
It starts at home.
Yeah.
It starts at home.
Ministry, the children at home are dying, and we're saving the world, and we forget the ones that are home ask them the uncomfortable questions, even if it makes you uncomfortable, because you never know what you can, derail them, what ditch you can derail them from falling in. Tell them they're beautiful, raise them in their authentic beauty. Tell them daily, you are a queen, you are beautiful, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Do affirmations with your children daily. When you drop them off to school, it takes 5 minutes. Just tell them, who are you? What is your name? What do you stand for? Ask them the questions and teach them the response so that it's drilled into their mind to the point where they believe it. Because when society is constantly beating you down, telling you you're not beautiful, you fall into that. But if parents took the time to just do simple words of affirmation, I think that would make such a huge difference. Just speak to them, tell them who they are so that they believe it in them, and I just think that we should just continue to reach out to them. More of this, what you're doing, Virginia, like, thank you for inviting me to speak. And it's funny what you said to me. It was like, I've seen your journey. Like, who are you now? I want to talk. I want to talk to you about it. I want to know more about it. So the fact that you reached out to me, it made a difference, because I didn't see myself as like, really? Like, so when you reached out to me, I was like, okay, God, I see you. Because I this role.
It's true.
Even in what you did for me by asking me, it's like another like affirmation to me. Okay, you are growing, and people see you.
You're growing. Exactly. People are always watching. People are always watching, and it's a journey. It's a journey for all of us, and my mission, like I said, is always to empower and ignite. And it's like I started on this journey for young girls, but more and more I feel like God has me, just,
it's global. It's for everyone.
Women too, because women need it too. A lot of times there's a lot of women, because I dealt with it. I could say I was a woman. I was 19 years old when I dealt with my insecurities.
Yeah.
And so, we have something that they need. So I just want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the platform. Thank you so much. So guys, this has been awesome. This has been Confidence Tea Infusions. I am always looking for guests. So if you want to be a guest on our show, please, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm Girls Igniting. You can send us an email. That's girlsigniting@gmail.com. And we are also, so I have an academy. So it is called Girls Igniting Academy. And so we have a lot of resources for adolescent girls. We have a 90-day virtual mentorship program that launches April the 12th. So you can go there. It is, so the website is going to be, if you type in gginc.academy.org, or you can go on our website, www.gginc.org, and click on the academy. It'll take you right there. So if you have a daughter, it's very important that it really takes a village. So it's very important that if you have a daughter, that you connect her to the right people, the right organization. Yeah. So Gigi Inc. is created for you. It's for you women. It's for you parents. It's for you young ladies. And so definitely, I'm going to post on the, okay, I am going to post, give me a second, my computer's acting crazy. So I'm going to post in the chat a link. I do have a freebie for everybody who attended tonight. You can just go right on over on that link, gginc.academy.org, and I have 31 strategies to strengthen your self-confidence. And so that is going to be just my freebie for you for attending tonight. It's a free download. There's no cost to it. All you got to do is put in your email address. It's going to come straight to your inbox, and you can have that. That way you continue, because again, even as adults, we have days. We all have days. I have days. I'm the confidence queen. And let me tell you, there are some days I get up and I'm like, I am not feeling it today. I'm just not me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to, and so it is a journey. It is not a destination. We never fully arrive. We never get to this place of, oh, I just think I'm just all of that and I've just arrived. We have to continue to affirm ourselves. We have to continue to speak life to ourselves. We have to continue to affirm who God created us to be. And so we have to instill those same principles in the next generation. And so I am so excited that you all have joined me tonight. Thank you so much, Romeen, for being a guest. I just thank you so much. You are amazing. You spoke some gems. You dropped some like words of wisdom, honey. Like I was, the comments were just like blowing up. Like I'm still getting comments because people were just like, yay. And so, and so I'm just so excited. That you guys, and somebody wrote on the chat, somebody said we need a part 2. So definitely I am game. And you know what, we can have more guests. So if you, maybe we have a panel discussion this time. And so if you guys are interested, reach out to me, Facebook, Instagram, Girls Igniting, or email me at girlsigniting@gmail. Okay. And so I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This has been awesome. Confidence Tea Infusions. Make sure you guys stay tuned for our next episode. And I look forward to just sharing more with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night. And with that, I say good night.
Good night.